a lot of retirees, maybe even most, are going to end up dying with more money than they had when they first retired. The title of this video is Why Retirees with $500,000 Die with $2 million. That's 4 times the money they retired with. And we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to share with you some studies that back up the claim that I just made that many retirees, perhaps even most, are going to die with more money than what they retired with. And this matters to you because if you're working an extra 3, 4, 5 years, save up more money for a more secure retirement, you want to be sure that you have enough money to retire, but you also want to make sure that you don't unnecessarily give up some of the best years of your retirement. When you're young, you have your full energy, you have your mental acuity, and for most of us, if we could retire 5 years earlier, that would be a big deal. So let's jump in and see if this is indeed true. Okay, this is a study by BlackRock, and BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager. And BlackRock did a study across the spectrum of their clients and looked at how much money do people have 17, 18 years into retirement. There are studies called To Spend or Not Spend. And this is the key chart here, figure 1. And I want you to look over to the right-hand side. You can see at the bottom it says 80 to 100 or greater than 100%. That's the percent of money that these clients retired with. And you can see here they're looking at their lowest wealth clients, their medium wealth, and their highest wealth. So it's not just the uber rich, they're looking at the full spectrum. And about 10% of their clients, 17 or 18 years in, still have 80 to 100% of the money they retired with. But look at this, almost 40% have over 100% of what they retired with. Okay, so BlackRock is one study. But one of the services, one of the thought leaders that financial advisors listen to, and I was a financial advisor for over 20 years before I retired. So one of the thought leaders that we listened to was a gentleman by the name of Michael Kitces. It's a photo of him at the bottom. But importantly, his article is Why Most Retirees Will Never Draw Down Their Retirement Portfolio. This is open to the public. You can Google this article to find it. And there's a chart in this study that shows this is for a couple retiring with $1 million. You can see year 10 is when their value maxes out. So they actually have more money for the first decade after they retired than what they retired with. And then the spending starts to decrease their nest egg. You can see it's almost the same number that BlackRock reported 17 years into retirement before they took dime one out of the money that they retired with. In other words, they were living off the earnings of those accounts prior to that. So that's a big, big deal. Now, why do we think we need as much money as we do? Again, you want to be crystal clear that you have enough money to retire. You want to have confidence and you want to have clarity. Unfortunately, we cannot have certainty. But there are studies like this one by Fidelity, and I have a lot of respect for Fidelity. And this gives us an idea of how much we should be saving. Let me quickly go through this chart. So this is based on our starting salary at that decade. So when we're 30 years old, Fidelity says, we haven't had much time to start saving money, so we should have saved 1 times our annual salary. By 35, we should have had 2 times. By 40, 3 times. Then by 50, it says we should have 6 times our salary. So if we're making $100,000 a year, Fidelity's saying it'd be nice by 50 to have $600,000 saved. By 55, 7 times our salary. By 60, 8 times. And by 67, 10 times. Again, if you're making $100,000 a year, Fidelity saying by the time you're 67, you should have $1 million saved. But my question to you is, what if instead of 67, you could retire at 60? What if you had a crystal ball and you knew you weren't going to use that money? What if you looked at these studies and said, you know what? A lot of people aren't using the money that they save between 60 and 67. So why not enjoy my journey more? And that's the question I want to pose for you. I want to give you some more information. Nothing I'm sharing is financial advice, but I want to put the idea that a lot of people end up working for 5, 6, 7 years to save more money that it's highly likely they're never going to use. Okay, I want to introduce you to a gentleman by the name of Andrew Biggs. And he wrote an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal called "You Don't Need to Be a Millionaire to Retire." And before I get into the article, I want you to know who Andrew Biggs is because he's very credible. Andrew Biggs is a senior fellow at a think tank. It's called the American Enterprise Institute. But before joining AIE, Biggs was the principal deputy commissioner of the Social Security Administration, where he oversaw Social Security Administration's policy research efforts. So he's an expert on Social Security. So let's go back to his op ed piece in the Wall Street Journal, where he says you don't need to be a millionaire. Then he says, so, how much does a retiree need to feel financially secure? He previously in this op-ed piece was talking about a Fed survey. The median 65 to 74-year-old who reported doing okay had between $50 and $100,000. Now, do I think he should retire with that level of assets? No. No, I do not, but let's keep going. The median retiree who reported living comfortably had $100 to $250,000. And it's impossible to find evidence that seniors need even a fraction of the $1.5 million that the average American reports that they think they need to retire. Now, importantly, why is it? Why are seniors saying, I feel comfortable in retirement even when they have less than $250,000. This is what Andrew Biggs speculates the answer is. And he says one reason is that Social Security benefits are more generous than people think. An average couple retiring in 2022 received total annual benefits of nearly $46,000, and that's from around $34,600 in today's dollars in 2000. While hardly extravagant, a typical couple can expect an income more than twice the elderly poverty threshold before they touch a penny of their own savings. Now, all of this has been theoretical. I actually want to dive in and show you the numbers so that you can see what they look like themselves. I'm using a free online tool for this. It's called honestmath.com. And you can follow along here as well. What I like about it is the super high level tool. So for something like a video like this, for something planning a decade away, it will get you directionally in the right place. Okay, so there's 4 sections. First one's personal information. Instead of a name, I'm just putting in this couple 65 years old. They're married and they have $750,000. And they're 65, so I put in their birth date and I put in $4,000 a month, which is about what the Andrew Biggs article had adjusted for inflation. So they're making $4,000 a month in Social Security. Their portfolio balance is $750,000. And you can see here for expenses, they have $5,000 a month. Why? Because the Bureau of Labor Statistics says that the average retired couple spends spends about $58,000 a year in expenses. So $5,000 a month is $60,000 a year, so close enough. Everything else is the default. Same with the settings. I leave everything the default. But this is what I want to show you. This is the output of what a tool financial advisors use called the Monte Carlo simulation. You can see here that this tool ran 10,000 simulations. So it's trying to give you different randomized sequence, good stock market returns, poor stock market returns, and see how do people do. So the top of this light blue area, these are the people that got lucky. They got the really good returns early in retirement when they had the most money. The people bottom of that light blue, these are people that suffered from what we call sequencer return risk. They just got the bad returns early when they had the most money, so they had the most to lose. And then that dark blue line, that's the median. Half of these 10,000 simulations did better, half did worse. So you can see this couple here, they retired with $750,000. And 30 years later, or 25 years later, at the age of 90, they had more money. So the median, over half, had more money 25 years later than what they retired with. And some of the people had $2 million or more. So that's a big, big number. And you can see this range. And importantly, nobody ran out of money in this simulation. Now, I used a very high level tool. It was called Honest Math. You can run this simulation yourself, but I'd suggest that you use software that's more robust, that can help you. You don't want to be a high level as you're getting close to retirement. You want to know what the details are. And fortunately, good software to help you go through the details is not crazy expensive. It's very affordable. The software that I like is called Bolden. You can find Bolden at the QR code showing up here on the screen or in the description. I am an affiliate, so you'll be supporting the channel. But it allows you to do a lot of scenario planning and allow you to do more than just, the 5 main sections that I put in. So thank you, Bolden. I appreciate our partnership and our collaboration. And then finally, related to this, you want to make a good decision financially, but then you also want to think about some non-financial aspects, including your health, which is why I made this video here. Why waiting to 65 to retire might be a big mistake. Thanks for watching this video. Bye-bye.